Yes, as we know, the LEK is the March of the Jewish People, a lone soldier who made Aliyah and was murdered in a terrorist attack in Jerusalem. And his family came to his funeral and were sitting shiva. And there was a group of friends who came from South Africa the following week who tried to get in and were turned away at the border. They left actually before the travel ban had been imposed. And they arrived at the border on Friday and were turned away by the airport authorities, by the officials of the State of Israel, and forced to actually travel on Shabbat, to desecrate Shabbat. So it was a heartless expression of the pain and suffering this travel ban is causing. People who are coming to comfort the mourners who've been through such a terrible, traumatic situation. And people, who had suffered loss as a result of martyrdom for the State of Israel, and then to be turned back and to be forced to desecrate Shabbat in a way symbolized so much of the pain and suffering this travel ban is causing.
Right. So your argument to those who say, listen, it's hardship, it's unfortunate, but Israel has to secure the health of its citizens, and it just has to keep people out who might bring in this Omicron variant.
So I think that the point is here that no one would dare to say that the State of Israel must jeopardize the health of its own citizens. The health officials and the experts of the Ministry of Health of the government of Israel have said that in the case of Israeli citizens, they require three conditions for them to enter. In other words, Israeli citizens who are returning from countries that have been designated as red countries are indeed allowed to enter the State of Israel, provided that they undergo a PCR test, they have isolation, and that they are vaccinated. So what I'm saying is this: apply the exact same standards that you would apply for Israeli citizens to Jews, to diaspora Jewry coming in from any part of the world. In other words, those three conditions are regarded by the Ministry of Health to be acceptable, to bring down the level of risk to acceptable levels so that the Israeli citizens can enter their country. The diaspora Jews, even if they're not passport holders, Israeli passport holders, should be given the same privileges, because the State of Israel is a different state from any other country in the world. It is not only a state for its own citizens. It is the state of the Jewish people, and the land of Israel is the birthright of the Jewish people. The State of Israel is the Jewish state, whose mission it is to look after and to be a Jewish state by its identity and its very nature. And what concerns me so much, and why I chose to speak out on this matter, is not only for the sake of diaspora Jewry who need to enter Israel in order to study, to learn, to connect with relatives, to connect with the Holy Land, with the city of Jerusalem, not only because of that, but for the sake of the State of Israel. Because if the State of Israel forgets this fundamental fact, if the government of the State of Israel forgets the fundamental identity that this is not a state only for its citizens, it is a Jewish state, then its very reason for existence is called into question. Because what is the purpose of the State of Israel? It's not just to be another country in the world. It is to be the Jewish state. And that means with responsibilities for the Jewish people. And so when the government of Israel says there are two categories of Jews, those who carry Israeli passports and those who do not, that is a dividing wall within the Jewish people, and it is seriously damaging the relationship between diaspora Jewry and the State of Israel.
All right. Well, you do raise some very serious point here, Rabbi Goldstein. I mean, there is a difference between people who are Israeli citizens and Jews and those who don't. But we'll have to leave that discussion for another time. But certainly, you are not alone in the feelings that you're expressing and the hardship, undeniable hardship that it has been causing for the diaspora Jewish community.
I think also
briefly
What is important to add, and I can say this from a South African experience point of view, on the ground here in South Africa, and I'm not speaking as a doctor or as a scientist, on the ground here in South Africa, and I can talk from a Jewish community point of view and from a national point of view, hospitals are empty of people who are vaccinated by and large. That is what we're experiencing here. The atmosphere on the ground is relaxed. And so what I'm also calling upon the State of Israel is to look at the facts.
Okay, Rabbi Goldstein, we'll have to leave it at that. Warren Goldstein, Chief Rabbi of South Africa, thank you for joining us.